Thank you so much, Yen Al-Hujam, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, and the second one, we have one more speaker joining us via Zoom. Let me greet Dr. Haris Shah Abdul Hamid from University of Malaya. Good afternoon, Dr. Haris. As she is a psychology lecturer at the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities. And the second one is Mr. Dr. Bona Setio MSE, lecturer from the Department of Communication Science, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, UIN Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. Later on, I will read in detail the curriculum vitae of each speaker. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have started the first plenary of this conference with some talks and discussions on war and conflict, especially in Indonesia and the surrounding regions. And in this second session, we will focus more on psychological perspectives, as we have two psychology lecturers from Indonesia and also from Malaysia. And we will also focus talking about war and conflict in communication perspectives, as we have speakers with background of communication lecturers from Marmara University and also from UIN Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. Okay, without further ado, we will start our discussions. And as we have 4 speakers, and we have only 2 hours for the second plenary, so I will give the time for each speaker 20 minutes. Okay, let's start with the first speaker. Our first speaker is Dr. Raden Rahmidiana, MA, one of the lecturers at the Department of Psychology at the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, UIN Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. Besides, in addition to giving lectures to the students of psychology, she is also the editor-in-chief of Journal Psychology Integrative from 2020 to 2024. She attained her bachelor degree from the Department of Psychology, University of Gadjah Mada, Yogyakarta. And then she continued to study in a master's degree at the same university, at the same department. She attained her doctoral degree from the University of Muhammadiyah, Yogyakarta, from the Psychology of Islamic Education Department. Her research focus is on educational psychology, and also the psychology of family and parenting, psychology of characters, and Islamic psychology. She has published several research. Among them is Forgiveness Among Madurans Ethnic, the relation between religiosity, interpersonal attachment, and personality trait. And in this very special occasion, Dr. Rahmi Diana will also speak on forgiveness, that I think it has something to do with conflict and war, more focusedly on the coping mechanism, probably, because we know that war and conflict always result in thousands of victims, and when we are talking about victims, it's not only physically but also mentally. So from the psychological perspective, we will probably gain many insights about how to cope with the conditions after war. So let's start our discussion today. Mr. Rahmi Diana, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Uut, as a moderator today. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, Dr. Muhammad Sodik MSE, and also Vice Dean Dr. Sulistianingsih, Dr. Yani Triwijayanti, and Dr. Badrun Alaina, the Honorable, the Head of Psychology, Sociology and Communication Department, the Honorable, the keynote speaker from Turkey, from Malaysia, and my colleague, Dr. Bonostio from Sunan Kalijaga. Okay, and of course, all the committees and participants who join this conference between online or offline. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rahmi Diana, and thank you for coming in my talk today. Regarding with theme of this conference, humanity in war and conflict, beyond time and space. Well, I'm going to present my paper about forgiveness and well-being. As we all know, that conflict is unavoidable in human's life. But there is one thing to minimize the effect on the conflict in the scale of micro, such as interpersonal or family conflict, or scale of macro, like the conflict between countries or nations. Surely, everyone hopes for a peace and well-being in their life, and forgiveness can be one of predictors of well-being itself. I've divided my presentation into 4 major issues. The first about definition of forgiveness, the second of Islamic perspective about forgiveness, the third stages of forgiveness, and the last forgiveness therapy and well-being. I will also include previous research and my research about forgiveness. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so now we will start to break down about what is actually forgiveness. Definition of forgiveness is a set of motivation to change someone, not to seek revenge, but instead to decrease and maintain hatred toward the offender and increases to urge a relationship reconciliation with them. Forgiveness in a willingness to leave unpleasant things that come from interpersonal relationship with others and foster positive thoughts, feelings, and interpersonal relationship with the person who commit unjust violations. Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. The PowerPoint, the net. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I will continue my presentation. Next, about theoretical construct of forgiveness, according to Thompson, Snyder, and et al., there are 3 kinds of forgiving. The first, forgiving self; the second, forgiving others; and third, forgiving situation. Another theoretic about a construct of forgiveness is from McCullough. There are 3 dimensions about forgiveness. The first is emotional dimension, include relief feelings of anger, hurt and hate, relieve a desire for revenge, control emotion when treated unpleasantly, feel compassion and affection, and motivate for kindness, generosity. And the second dimension is interpersonal dimensions, all about abandon harmful behaviors and words, abandon indifferent behavior, increase reconciliation effort, feel comfortable when interacting with the perpetrator, and consult with perpetrator. And the third, cognitive dimension, is about relieve negative judgment against the perpetrator, have a reasonable explanation for the painful treatment and have a balanced view of perpetrator. Okay, the next slide maybe. Okay, next. Okay, I will continue to the previous research. Yes. Okay. Forgiveness enhances well-being or happiness and one way to resolve conflict that occur between individuals, groups, and even among nations or countries. Forgiveness also maintaining social harmony, and many research show that forgiveness enhance mental health, can improve psychological well-being, life satisfaction, meaningful life, self-control, and resilience. Moreover, forgiveness also can improve or enhance spirituality in dealing with post-traumatic growth, decrease bullying, gratitude, quality of marriage, and make someone free from negative emotion. So, what are the benefits of forgiving others? Forgiving others, having us calmer life, also being not easily angry and not easily offended, and being able to build better relationship with others. Forgiving, also having less conflict with other people, and preventing the perpetrator from repeating similar action in the future. On the other hand, by not forgiving, such as broken heart, angry, and so on, maybe it can harm the health of the heart and circulatory system and cause cancer, blood pressure, stomach ulcer, flu, headache, earaches, and the other illness, physical or mental health. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now I will explain about Islamic perspective forgiveness itself. The Islamic perspective is used especially during the decision phase to the forgiveness phase by explaining the importance of forgiveness to achieve a good life in the hereafter and in this world. In the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Imran, ayah 134, written that who spend in the cause of Allah during easy and hardship, and who restrain anger, and who pardon the people, and Allah loves the doers of good. In the fact, it is possible to everybody if will retaliate or revenge, but forgiving has a higher degree. In Surah Ash-Shura, ayah 40, written that, and the retribution for an evil act is an evil one like it. But whoever pardons and makes reconciliation, his reward is from Allah. Indeed, He doesn't like wrongdoers. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we also have to know that forgiving is the character of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Aisyah radhiyallahu an was once asked about some personal character of the Prophet Muhammad, and she explained that the messenger of Allah was the best in characters. He was never rude, never misbehaved, never sold at the market, and never treat evil with evil. In the fact, he was forgiving and reconciliation. Not only in this world, also the forgiving is guaranteed its place in heaven. In the Hadith by Tabrani, whoever wants to build for him a house building in paradise, so forgive those who are unjust to him. Give alms the miserly people and continue the relationship with those who break the relationship. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, next we will move on to concept forgiveness therapy in Islamic psychology perspective. There are two approaches about forgiveness therapy. The first is original Islamic psychology approach. This therapy uses some source from the Quran and Hadith about the process of forgiveness. One of them is forgiveness therapy by referring to Al-Ghazali's view. According to Al-Ghazali perspective, forgiveness therapy is a structured treatment given to an individual according to stages of forgiveness. The stages of forgiveness that can be referred are stages of forgiving according to Imam Al-Ghazali in Ihya Ulumuddin. Those are Godop, is a stage of realizing anger, and then Hilmun is a process of preventing anger and not being offended. And third is Afun, forgiving, and then Ihsan, doing kindness, and Rifkun, a self who has feeling compassion, love, and friendship with others. Every stage needs knowledge and practice, and this therapy process will last for 3 meetings and last for 120 minutes per meeting, and it is done twice a week. Okay, and then the second perspective is integrated Islamic psychology approach. This therapy integrates Islamic view and Western perspective by integrating stage of forgiveness according to Robert and Wright and Islamic perspective. Now let's talk about the stages of forgiveness according in Wright. Stages of forgiveness is 4 stages. The first is uncovering phase, is realizing anger, heart, and revenge. And the second, decision phase, thinking about the possibility of forgiveness. The third, work phase, rationally realizing the importance of forgiveness. The fourth, deepening phase, internalizing the meaningfulness of forgiveness. And the last, forgiveness reconciliation phase. This is truly forgiving. Next, I will present some research results of forgiveness therapy. There are some research about forgiveness therapy. Forgiveness therapy to increase self-acceptance in breast cancer patients. And then forgiveness therapy is effective for increasing self-acceptance of women who are victims of domestic violence due to husband infidelity. And forgiveness therapy also effective for reducing depression. Besides, we have conducted the research about forgiveness therapy to improving subjective well-being among family of the patient with chronic illness. The result of this research showed that there were differences between the subjective well-being in treatment and control group, and it is effective to improve subjective well-being in a family or caregiver for patients with chronic illness. Well, coming to the end of my presentation, so I would like to say the final note, maybe about forgiveness, that forgiving others is one of the virtuous acts if we aspire harmony and minimize impact of negative conflict. A lot of research show the power of forgiveness to human life, and if we want to achieve peaceful and well-being life, be a forgiving person to anyone anytime and anywhere. Okay, well, thank you for your attention, and I'm return the time and place to the moderator. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rahmi, for your presentations on forgiveness. I guess in this context of war and conflict, it can be a useful insight maybe on the handling of the post-war or post-conflict resolutions, especially on the victims, right? Okay, moving on to the second speaker. Now we will have a quite different discussions since the second speaker, Dr. Yamal Goksun, maybe I need to check if he's there by now.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we are going to move to you. Before you present maybe your research, let me to read your curriculum vitae. Dr. Yamal Goksun is a senior lecturer in Marmara University Department of Communication Science in Istanbul, Turkey. Dr. Yamal Goksun obtained his PhD from Marmara University from the Department of Radio and Television. He wrote a dissertation entitled Television's Construction of Public Opinion, the Case of Al-Manar. He obtained a master's degree from the same university with a thesis, The Image of Turkey in Syrian Primary and Secondary Textbooks. And his bachelor degree is from Istanbul University, Faculty of Political Science. Dr. Yamal Goksun has published many articles, also books, and also chapters. Among of them is Construction of Identity in Lebanese Media, I guess it's the latest, published in 2020, published in Istanbul. The other publications include Media Strategy of ISIS, Discovering Television Service, Basic Concepts in Political Communications, and still many more publications. Okay, and Dr. Yamal Goksun in this plenary session will talk about Turkey's communication strategy regarding the war between Ukraine and Russia. Okay, Dr. Yamal Goksun, 20 minutes time is yours.
Selamun Aleyküm. Thank you very much for your invitation.
Alaikum salam.
By Sunan Kalijaga State Islamic University. I find this symposium really valuable in this time because we are facing many crises around the world, like civil wars, conflicts, health crisis, economic crisis. So our countries are surrounded by many crises. So thank you for inviting me to this timely event. Let me share my presentation with you. I think you also share, but I don't know if you can see my screen right now, because I believe this will be more comfortable for me to control my presentation. Today I want to talk about the Russia-Ukraine war and Turkey's communication strategy. As you know, this is the war between Russia and Ukraine is one of the biggest international crises right now, and the experts say that this war will cause big changes, not only in the region, but in the international system globally. So Turkey is one of the main actors in this conflict because as a geography, we are just next to those two countries. And also Turkey has good relations, deep relations with both actors, with Russia and Ukraine. So this is why this regional crisis, but actually it's an international crisis, really matters for Turkey. And Turkey is following a unique communication strategy during the crisis. So I want to explain how Turkey is following and constructing this unique communication strategy. Right now, in the beginning, I want to mention that Turkey is the only actor, only state, which can negotiate and talk with both sides, with Russia and Ukraine. let's remember, I know Indonesia is far from this region, but I believe that you are following up the news because it's a global crisis right now, and it has the possibility to change the international order. So let me remind you that the war has been ongoing since February 2022, actually. As you know, when Russia started this invasion, we call it invasion in Turkey, and the international community calls it invasion as well, or occupation. But Russia calls it as a special operation, as you know. This is the, let's say, communication strategy of Russia to convince their own people, and they also build their propaganda on this special operation term. So what is the purpose, according to Russia, of this special operation? Putin says that they want to demilitarize Ukraine and they want to denazify Ukraine, which means that they will destroy the military of Ukraine and they will destroy the Nazi groups or organizations inside Ukraine. This is their claim. And of course, they are producing media and propaganda materials for supporting their legitimacy in this war. But there are, of course, the other side of the story. And actually, the world is following the war from this perspective, which we call it the Ukrainian resistance against the Russian occupation. So I don't want to get into deep about political issues because I want to focus on the media image and communication strategy of those different actors. So Russia has its own story. They want to save their historical lands from those Nazi and NATO-supported groups. And they create media messages according to this perspective. And Ukrainian side is creating another story. They are resisting against the oppression of Russian authoritarian regime. So in this story, the President Volodymyr Zelensky became a hero. He became the symbol of Ukrainian resistance. I believe you have seen many pictures about him. He is on the ground all the time. He is checking, he's meeting with his soldiers on the front lines of the war. And he draws an image that he's a brave leader. He doesn't want to escape from the country. He will stay there till the end, till they get the victory against the Russian occupation. This is the messages he gives. But also there is another message that he delivers to the world, that the Western world is supporting him, which means that in the beginning, the United States, the NATO, and the European actors are supporting Ukraine in this bloody war. So, okay, this is a political alliance, we can say, but also this kind of political alliance is creating a discourse alliance, actually. So in this story, Ukrainian side, which is resisting the occupation, is symbolizing the democratic side. And of course, on the contrary, the Russian side is symbolizing the authoritarian side. So democracy and authoritarian regimes are fighting in this war, according to this story. So that kind of story is constructed by the Western media powerfully. So that kind of construction says that you have to give a message to the world, to the international public opinion, and to the other countries that you have to pick your side. You want to be with the oppressors or you want to be with the democratic regimes. So in that kind of international context, of course, the countries, they have to stand with the, let's say, democratic values. And of course, most of the countries around the world, they prefer supporting Ukrainian side in this conflict, and also Turkey as well. But there's something different about Turkey because Turkey has deep relations with Russia. I will come to that point. I just want to show those pictures, which is constructing this discourse. As you can see, the British Prime Minister visiting Kiev and visiting front line of the war, and von der Leyen, European Union representative, is also visiting. And there are many other European leaders visiting and showing their cooperation and support for Ukrainian people. And as you know, President Zelensky has given speeches in many Western parliaments, in Canada, in Britain, in Brussels, in European Union Parliament, and in many other different parliaments. He gave speech. And also, as you know, the European Union started the membership process of Ukraine. So those are really strong symbolic messages to the world that the Western world is supporting Ukraine against Russia. So let's come to our point. What is the Turkey's reaction to invasion of Ukraine, and what makes it unique? So there are four factors that affect Turkey's view on Ukraine crisis. First of all, as you can see on the map, Turkey has a great coast to the Black Sea, and in this Black Sea, Turkey is neighbor to Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, and Russia and Georgia. As you can see, Russia and Ukraine are the two other important states on the Black Sea. So that war between Ukraine and Russia is deeply affecting Turkey and the stability in the region. So what are the other factors that affect Turkey's view? Developing bilateral relations with Ukraine and Russia separately. Before the crisis, for many years, for the last 5 or 6 years, Turkey has deep relations with Ukraine. They have economic relations, security, cooperation, and many other things. And also with Russia, tourism, economy, energy relations are really important between those two countries. And Turkey does not have the chance to pick one of these fighting sides. The third factor is that owning the straits that are key to the Black Sea. As you can see, in Istanbul, we have the Bosphorus and we have the Dardanelles Strait. Those two straits, they connect Black Sea to the Aegean Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, which means that Turkey is also controlling the transition roads for those two countries. I mean, if Russia wants to bring more weapons, they have to use this road. Or if Ukraine wants to deliver their food or agricultural products, they have to use this route again. The fourth factor is that Turkey is a historical member of the Western Alliance, which is called NATO. Not only NATO, but Turkey has deep relations with European Union and also with specifically with many Western countries. So Turkey has always shown that he is a part of the Western world, a part of the democratic world. But this crisis, Russia-Ukraine war, is challenging the discourse of Turkey. Where will the Turkey stand in this war? If Turkey will keep its relations with Russia? So this is what makes it more challenging with Turkey. As I mentioned, Turkey is the country with the longest coastline in Black Sea. So this is why Turkey gives importance to the preservation of the balance in the region. So any crisis in the region, Turkey doesn't benefit from this, nor any other country in this region. So this is why Turkey is working hard to stop the fighting immediately. This is a unique or different approach from other Western countries because, as you know, in the first phase, the United States and NATO, they are the actors who are pushing for the war. I mean, before the crisis, before the start of the war, as we know that they didn't do much enough for preventing the start of the war. And actually, they took some steps which enabled the start of the war. Anyway, this is totally against the Turkish perspective. Turkey is looking for stability in the region. So Turkey has consistently expressed that it opposes and rejects the annexation of Crimea. As you know, before the invasion of Ukraine, Russia has invaded some other regions like Georgia or Crimea. Crimea is that part, like Sevastopol, Yalta, it's like an island in the north of the Black Sea, you can see here. So it's a strategic point, and also Turkey has national and historical relations with Crimea. There are many Turkish people living there, Turkish communities. So this is what makes it important for Turkey. So Turkey has always opposed the military aggression of Russia in these regions. But I want to mention that Turkey didn't only oppose the Russian aggression in the Black Sea, but also in Syria, in Libya, in Nagorno-Karabakh. I don't know if you have heard those conflicts. Turkey has engaged in these regions and sometimes indirectly faced the Russian forces. Not direct Russian forces, but they are like Russian military companies, as you know, like Wagner company. So Turkey has trying to improve relations with Russia, but at the same time, we have many challenges in different countries like Syria, Libya, Nagorno-Karabakh, and now in Ukraine. So what did Turkey do? Turkey has developed a separate relationship model with Russia and Ukraine in the last 30 years. During the crisis, President Erdogan has often said that we neither give up on Russia nor give up on Ukraine. So we have to keep our relations with both sides, which is really difficult today because the Western world can judge you that you are supporting Russia or you didn't cut your ties with Russia. But how did Turkey succeeded to keep its relations with both sides? And the both sides is happy, by the way. Russia is not reacting to Turkey while you meet with Ukrainian side, or the Ukrainian president is also comfortable with Turkey to talk with Russia because both sides are getting benefit from this relationship. So as our time is limited, I will pass this part. Here I'm explaining how deep the relations between Russia and Ukraine. So yes, there were some steps, diplomatic steps that Turkey took. One of them was Antalya Diplomacy Forum. It was a really successful platform. Turkey was successful to bring together the two sides, the Ukrainian side and Russian side, for the first time in that kind of international event. So they came to Turkey, Antalya city, which is next to the Mediterranean Sea, and it was a really international and respectful platform. In this meeting, they didn't come together. It was not a bilateral meeting, but it was a tripartite meeting. So three sides, Russia, Ukraine, and Turkey. So this is why both sides felt more relaxed about coming to the same table, because they said that, no, we are not talking to each other, but we are in a multilateral platform. Of course, in that first meeting, there was not a concrete result, but it was an important success that the parties were able to come together. So it was just the beginning of the process. And after that, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, he visited Moscow and Lviv to improve those relations. And the second step was the Istanbul negotiations. That time, there was not the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but the President of Turkey was there. And that was like more serious negotiations with the top representatives of Ukraine and Russia. The Russian and Ukrainian sides, they carried the tactical and technical talks in Belarus. They carried it to Turkey after the first week of the conflict. It was an important meeting. Why? Because the President Erdogan said that we have now entered a period where concrete outputs must be obtained from the talks. It's in everyone's interest to reach a ceasefire as soon as possible. So in fact, he was expressing the expectation of not only Turkey, but also the international community, because everybody wants to bring the peace. They want to stop the war. Everybody is giving this message. But the important thing is that you have to take concrete steps for this purpose. So Turkey was the only actor who is able to invite both sides, and also he is the most trustful actor that the both sides accept to come to Turkey and Istanbul to start negotiations. Of course, again, there was not like really concrete outputs, but it's not important. This is another step Turkey took was about the food crisis. As you know, it's not only a fighting, it's also a humanitarian crisis, but also there was a global food crisis because Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it caused a global food crisis. So the African continent, all the Western countries, they were affected because they couldn't get grain or corn from Ukraine, which is a really serious provider of these materials. So Turkey took a new step, and he invited not only Russia and Ukraine, but also the United Nations Secretary General Guterres to Istanbul. And those parts, they signed deal to resume grain exports. It was a really important step because Ukraine and Russia agreed to ceasefire in some districts to let the grain get out of the country in security. So here Erdogan said that we are proud of being instrumental in an initiative that will play a major role in the solution of the global food crisis that has occupied the world for a long time. So as you can see, still the war has not finished yet, but those steps are creating a practice for the both sides. So actually they are meeting periodically, as you can see. For some reason, Turkey is finding a reason to bring both sides to the table. So in each table, in each negotiation, they are discussing different topics, but actually they are improving their ability to talk about issues, problematic issues, and to find a solution to those issues. There is something important again here, as you know, the United Nations couldn't take an important role in this crisis because, you know, Russia is a member of the Security Council of United Nations, so he was vetoing any decision about this conflict. So we cannot talk about an active role of United Nations. So here, Turkey is trying to engage the United Nations, which is the biggest international organization and which has the potential to finish this crisis or the responsibility to finish this crisis. So here, as you can see, Turkey is engaging the United Nations into this process to make it more objective, more trustful, and more acceptable for both sides. So here we can talk about Turkey's multidimensional diplomacy. Turkey is meeting with Ukraine, Turkey is talking with Russia. Turkey is trying to engage United Nations to this process. He's not trying to do it by his own, but he wants to make it an international initiative. This is why Turkey President Erdogan with United Nations General Secretary Guterres, they visited Ukraine. So it was a really strong message that Turkey and United Nations is playing great effort for finishing this crisis. So as you can see, this is a diplomatic way. And there are some critics from the Western media and Western countries sometimes that they claim Turkey is keeping its relations with Russia. This is unacceptable. So we should exclude Turkey from the Western Pact. There are some extreme voices from the Western public or politicians like that. But there's a strong argument from Turkey, which is called Bayraktar. I don't know if you ever heard the name Bayraktar. This is Turkey's new brand, so it's a great part of the communication strategy. It's an UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, which is able to carry bombs and other things. So Turkey is producing those UAVs and already used those weapons in Libya, Syria, and Karabakh. So they are already showed their ability to change the destiny of the wars. Let's see what kind of effect did it create in Ukraine. Here you can see the CEO of Bayraktar company and a high-level Ukrainian official. Ukrainian official poses with the creator of Bayraktar drones, calling them super weapons for destroying so many Russian tanks. So Turkey is helping Ukraine resistance by providing this serious super weapons. Of course, Russia is really, let's say, is not feeling well about this. But this is like the free market. I mean, you can sell your weapon to any country. So Russia cannot oppose this. So Bayraktar drone became famous really around the world, like in many Western media and experts, they appreciated the change of these drones. Let's say this is a New Yorker magazine, the Turkish drone that changed the nature of the war in Ukraine, has brought precision airstrike capabilities to Ukraine and other countries. It's also a diplomatic tool enabling Turkey's rise. Even people in Canada or in Poland, they came together and they collected money for buying Bayraktar drones, and they wanted to send them to Ukraine to help Ukraine people. For example, in Canada, they collected $5.4 million. Also in Poland, they collected many millions. And after those campaigns, they managed to collect those money by the crowdfunding system. And the head of the Bayraktar company said that, thank you for your support for the Ukrainian people. We got your message, and we will deliver like 5 or 10 Bayraktar drones to Ukraine for free. And we don't ask for your money. You can send your money to Ukrainian sisters and brothers. So again, that was a really nice gesture from the Bayraktar company. They just delivered a few free drones to Ukraine. So, which makes it more and more popular in Ukraine and all around the world. Some experts call these drones like the Kalashnikov of the 21st century because they are cheap and they are really effective. And you can see that Ukrainian soldiers, they wrote the Bayraktar song, and it became really popular. It became a like popular culture symbol in Ukraine, but also in Eastern Europe and around the world. And of course, Turkey is selling Bayraktar drones to many countries right now. Let me play a short part because it's really funny how they, as you can see, this is a song about Bayraktar drones. Of course, this song again is a part of the Ukraine's propaganda against Russia, right? I believe Russia's officials are getting angry about these kind of messages, but there is nothing to do. This is how it works. Bayraktar is helping the Ukrainian people to defend their countries. So in the end, I want to mention that how Turkey was managing to create that kind of unique perspective on this crisis. First of all, Turkey in Sunan. Historically, we are part of the Western democratic bloc, and Turkey keeps sending this message to the world. We don't change our mind. We want to become. We want to keep our position in NATO, and we obey the decisions of the NATO because we are a part of the NATO. So we always agree with them. Also, Turkey wants to be a peace builder in the region because stabilization in the region is important for Turkey because Turkey is surrounded by crisis, the Syria crisis, the Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh, Armenia crisis, like Libya crisis. We are facing problems with Greece, and there are some crises in Cyprus Island and the Eastern Mediterranean. So these are many challenges facing Turkey. So this is why Turkey is trying to keep the stabilization and peace in the region. How Turkey manages to do this? Turkey is compartmentalizing the issues, which means that we are separating the issues. I mean, we are facing indirectly the Russian forces around the world, Syria, Libya, and different parts. We are sending weapons, effective weapons to Ukraine to use against Russia. But at the same time, we have great relations with Russia in economy, in energy. For example, Russia is constructing a nuclear energy system in Turkey for the first time. But Turkey keeps them separated from each other. The economy, the energy, the conflicts in the region, they are all separated from each other. This is how we can keep talking with the both sides. But if you say that we are fighting with those countries, so we finish our economic relations, we join the Western part for military support and economic sanctions, then maybe Turkey wouldn't be at that point which is the unique actor who is able to bring both sides to the same table. And I believe in the future, if there will be peace negotiations, again, it will be in the hosting of Turkey in this manner. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you so much, Hujam, for your interesting presentations, because it's really interesting to hear about the role of Turkey in regard of the war between Russia and Ukraine, considering the strategic location of Turkey itself between Asia and Europe, and also close to Black Sea and stuff like that, and also as well as considering the relationship between Turkey with both countries. I guess it's very challenging for Turkey itself, because since Turkey have a close and good relationship with both two countries. Okay, I think later we can discuss about it further, because it's very interesting, especially if we discuss about the communication strategy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Dr. Harishah Abdul Hamid. Hello, Dr. Harishah Abdul Hamid. Can we hear your voice?
Yeah.
Okay, so before your presentation, let me briefly read your curriculum vitae so that the participants here get to know you more closely. So, Dr. Harishah Abdul Hamid is senior lecturer at the Department of Educational Psychology and Counseling. The research, it's close to the research focus of Mrs. Rahmi, yeah. And he is also the head of the department since February 2022. And he's also teaching and supervising research projects at the undergraduate, master's, and PhD level. Dr. Harris obtained his education from University of Guelph, Canada, obtaining bachelor degree in psychology as a minor study, and also economics. And then he continued to University College London, majoring in human-computer interaction, obtaining Master of Science in ergonomics. And then he obtained his PhD from Loughborough University in the United Kingdom in ergonomics, with dissertation situation awareness among emergency care practitioners. How do emergency care practitioners make decisions regarding the treatment of patients in emergency and urgent cases? Prior to working in University of Malaysia as a senior lecturer, he previously worked in International Islamic University of Malaysia as assistant professor, and University Malaysia Sabah as a lecturer. He has published several publications. The most recent publications is in 2022. The title is Validation of Self-Efficacy for Self-Regulations of Academic Writing Skill. And in this plenary session, Dr. Harris will talk about empathy. Yeah, I guess it's a very important topic, again, in regard with the discussion of war and conflict, maybe also in the post-recovery, where I guess empathy is a very important point to be addressed, especially to the victims in every war or conflict. Okay, please, Dr. Harris, I guess the committee has made you as a co-host, right? Okay, we can see your presentation, so 20 minutes time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Wood, for the introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to all. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak at this conference. And first of all, I think I share the same color palette as the previous presenter. Yena, we both have green slides. Yeah, perhaps green is a comforting color and hopefully people who are watching online and people who are on site are able to see the green slides clearly. Yeah, and I would like to thank everyone who is involved with making this conference a reality, and especially those who have directly assisted me to make this presentation. And I think this is also the first time that I'm seeing at an international conference that we have a sign language person. So congratulations to the organizer for making this conference more accessible to everyone. Yeah. Okay. The title of my presentation is Counting Empathy and Making Empathy Counts. And these are the two main focus of my presentation today. The first part is related to my background, my current research interest in psychometrics, in measurement. Yeah, so I'll be sharing with you a bit about measurement of empathy, and then in the second half or the second part, we'll talk about why empathy counts towards peace and also conflict. Yeah, so we'll have these three components. In the middle component, I'll be talking about research that I've done, translating basic empathy skill. Actually, it's basic empathy skills. Yeah. And when we talk about empathy, actually, it's not the only emotional reaction that we may have to other people. There are actually a variety or a family of emotional reactions. For example, we have compathy, shared feeling due to shared circumstances. Maybe among the presenters who are presenting online today, we have the compathy of the technical glitches perhaps, or the apprehensiveness of presenting online. So those who are in the same situation may understand others having the same situation. Yeah, and of course we perhaps are very familiar with the term sympathy, where we intentionally react emotionally towards other people without necessarily feeling what they have. Yeah, understanding other people's emotion through perspective taking is what we mean by empathy. Yeah, and there are other forms of emotional responding to other people as well, like empathy, transpathy, and also unipathy. Yeah, and there are similar concepts like compassion. And this is very much popular in the psychology, positive psychology. We have compassion toward others and also self-compassion, compassion toward oneself. Yeah, but this concept, compassion and also tenderness, need to be differentiated or need to be seen differently from empathy. Yeah. Because empathy is about understanding other people's emotion, yeah, without necessarily having the desire to help other people. Yeah, empathy is not necessarily followed by the desire or the action to help other people. And in a literature, in a review of the literature, a group of researchers identified this element in the conceptualization of empathy. And I think this is important for us to understand in order for us to measure empathy beneficially or productively. Yeah. The first is empathy comprised of both emotion and cognition. When we see somebody, when we hear about somebody, perhaps somebody who has been afflicted by an adverse event, yeah, maybe a road accident or being told that they have a disease, we responded emotionally and also cognitively. So we think about what they are thinking, we feel what they are feeling. And through research, it is quite clear that the emotion and the cognition components are separate, are different, but there are a lot of interactions among the two. So it's when we want to measure empathy, we need to look at both the emotional and the cognitive components. The second part is the congruence of response. And this may be a bit tricky because we think we may know what the other person is thinking, or we may think that we know what the other person is feeling. But the degree of fidelity or the congruence of the emotion may or may not be there. Yeah, I think in some cases when the person is feeling sad and we think that they are feeling happy, of course there's a huge incongruence. Yeah, but there are some subtle differences in the feelings that people may have, and we may not actually feel exactly what the person is feeling. Yeah, but empathy requires a high degree of congruence of responses. Yeah, then empathy also is elicited due to the presence of a stimuli. Yeah, and this could be through direct or also indirect experiences. Yeah, and the empathic reactions could occur to somebody that we have heard about in the past, in the present time, or even in the future. Yeah, for example, I don't know, maybe if we can try to empathize with people who are, I don't know, maybe future Olympic champion or future tennis champion. Yeah, they have not yet win the championship, but we can empathize with how they would feel and how they would think if they win that championship. Yeah, and we can also empathize with real persons as well as fictional persons. Yeah. And then empathy is both automated and also effortful responses. We can, and I think this is quite important distinction. Yeah, it doesn't mean that empathy is without or outside of our control. Maybe sometimes we feel it without really thinking about it, but sometimes we need to be trained to be empathic towards others. And the next point is sometimes we can differentiate ourselves from others in terms of the feelings that are experienced. But there are neurological evidence that the neurological processes are the same for feeling other people's emotion and also our own. So it seems that at the neurological level, there could be some merging of the ourself and other people's situation. And the second last is whether empathy is a trait or a state. Yeah, whether it is our ability that we develop or that we have throughout our life, or whether it occurs only at certain times. And it seems that empathy is in fact based on trait, but the empathy is not covering all situations. We may have let's say X amount of empathy, but it may not be applied to all situations, to all times, to all persons, and to all objects. Yeah, and the situational factors are very important to determine our level of empathic reactions. And last but not least, I think Badam didn't write properly there. There may not be strong direct behavioral outcome from empathy, and research suggests that empathy is perhaps more useful as a behavioral motivation. So empathy can motivate us to take action, but empathy on itself is not that does not produce a behavioral outcome. Okay. And therefore, the reviewer of the literature suggests their own definition of empathy, where they say empathy is an emotional response dependent upon the interaction between trait capacity and state influences. Yeah, and you may read the rest of the definition. And there are a lot of measures available to look at empathy, and these 16 measures were reviewed by Seso and colleagues, and they said that these measures are suitable for children and adolescents. And another review published in 2021 for instrument meant to measure empathy in the general population, there seems to be quite similar components, which is understanding of emotion, feeling the emotion, sharing of the emotion, also differentiating self from others. So there seems to be a movement towards a consensus of the nature of empathy. And the instrument that I've chosen for the translation and the validation study is called Basic Empathy Scale. Basic Empathy Scale, published originally in 2006. And the original developer found that there are two components, the affective and also the cognitive. Yeah, and they define empathy as the understanding and sharing in another's emotional state or context. And this two-factor structure has been repeated in the translation studies, like in the Italian studies and also in the French study. However, there are also studies that say, oh, there are actually not two, but three factors of empathy. And a more recent review of Basic Empathy Scale, the convergent evidence is there are two components, cognitive and affective, and it is suitable for the general population. And the Crowbar Alpha was found to be acceptable in all of the studies. However, based on the review, it is also found that the amount or the type of validity evidence presented are quite, I'm not saying that it's narrow, but it's still limited. For example, we do not know what is the rating scale functionality. Are the items independent of each other or not? And do we have either floor or ceiling effect? And whether the levels of empathy can be empirically shown, and also whether the items correspond to the levels of empathy. Therefore, the aim of the study was to translate the Basic Empathy Scale into Bahasa Melayu and examine the validity using Rush measurement model. So we did a team translation and then tested the translated version with students to check the process response validity. And then the online questionnaire were distributed to students, were distributed by the students, and the data was analyzed in the software WinStat. Yeah, so we got 653 respondents. Yeah, or 654 respondents, and the majority of the respondents were Malay, professing Islam, and not employed, and their age were quite young. And in WinStat, what I had done was to sort of clean the data. I excluded misfitting person in 2 rounds of data cleaning. There were no misfitting items found, and the rating scale were found to be functioning well. So this is based on the 570 measured person after removing the misfitting persons. The person reliability is good at 0.80, and separation is 2.0, meaning that the level of empathy can be, the respondents can be divided to at least 2 levels of empathy, meaning that's low and high. Okay, I'm hearing the azan. Is that from Jogja?
I guess it's from Malaysia. We didn't hear any of them here yet. Yeah.
Oh, from Malaysia, yeah. Okay. And in terms of the items, the reliability is also very high at 0.99. Yeah, and in terms of unidimensionality, there is evidence of unidimensionality. So this is in contrast with the previous research that say there are two dimensions. Yeah, so through the rush measurement model, it is possible to argue that the instrument BES is measuring only one dimension. Yeah, because the variance explained by the measure is more than three times more than the variance explained by the first contrast. And the eigenvalue for the first contrast is also low at 2.6. So even if there are, even if there is another dimension, it comprises of only at least two or three items out of 20 items altogether in the BES. And it seems that the items are not dependent of each other. The correlation, the standardized residual correlation, are quite low. Yeah, the highest is only 3.34 between item 19 and 20. And in terms of the rating scale just now, the rating scale, each level of the rating scale is used well by the respondent. They seem to understand the difference between category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In this study, we use the Likert scale of agreement. Yeah? And then this is the interesting part. Yeah? When we look at the right map, yeah, I'm not sure how many of the among the audience are familiar with rush analysis, but for me this is very interesting because we see on the the right side of the right map, yeah, we see gaps there. It means there are no items that measure the person's ability. Yeah, so we have quite glaring gaps of items, and we may not have a comprehensive set of items to measure basic empathy among people. And it also shows that we need more difficult item. Yeah, meaning people would find it more difficult to endorse or to agree with the empathy. Or in other words, you need to be very high in your empathic ability to agree to these items. Yeah. Why do we say that we need more items? Yeah, because we can see there are no items on the right side as indicated by the blue bracket, whereas the persons, which are marked by the hashtag symbol, yeah, we have individuals or people covered by the blue bracket there. Yeah, and the last, actually the item at the lowest level of ability may not be very useful because it doesn't target anyone. Yeah, so this item may need to be revised or can be dropped from the instrument. And overall, the scale is quite easy because the mean for the person, the mean of the item is much lower than the mean of the person. So the respondent have higher ability compared to the instrument itself. And if we look at the items, A meaning affective, C means cognitive, there is no particular pattern that emerge in terms of the spread or the distribution of the affective and cognitive items in terms of their level of ability. Yeah, but we do acknowledge that the 4 highest items are affective and the lowest 3 items are cognitive. Yeah. And in terms of item fit, item 4 could be revised, and overall all of the items are measuring in the same direction. The polarity is good and the precision is also good. The standard error is very low. Yeah. And then in terms of the person, there is no ceiling and floor effect. The maximum measure or the maximum score is 3.75. It doesn't even go, it's not the maximum possible score. And the same with the minimum, it's not the lowest possible score of it's not the lowest possible score. Yeah, so there is no problem with ceiling and floor effect, and that's good. And in terms of the invariance of items, there is only one possible invariance in item number 11 among the male and female. But I think overall, if you look at the graph, the measure for male and female, male is the dark one and female is the red one. There is no consistent difference, no consistent difference between male and female respondent in terms of measure differences. So what I did was using the logic measure from the study. I look at the difference between male and female, and it seems that consistent with the results from previous studies, female have higher empathy compared to males. And if you look at the graph at the bottom right here, there is little overlap between the male score and the female score. Yeah. So if you look at the parametric as well as the non-parametric statistics, the difference is significant. So let me check.
Pardon, Dr. Harris. Pardon.
Yeah.
I apologize to tell you that your time is 5 minutes left.
Pardon?
Your time is 5 minutes remaining.
5 minutes remaining. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try to wrap up within that time. Okay. So when we are done counting the empathy, what else can we do? I think we need to describe the two levels of empathy that we have identified. What are the indicators or what are the descriptors? What kind of description that we can give to the persons with high and also low level of empathy, and we need to have higher items with the ability to measure higher level of empathy. For example, being empathic in all situations, being empathic towards all people, and being empathic for all different types of emotions. Yeah, because some people may be empathic towards happy people, but not empathic towards sad persons. Yeah, and the good thing is it seems that empathy can be trained. There are studies that show undergraduate students can be trained. Yeah, and there are specific examples of behavior that can be trained to improve empathy. Yeah, and another study showed that this is a systematic review. There are key behavior that are identified to be that has been shown to be effective in improving empathy. Like this is for medical education. Yeah, so when doctors are sitting instead of standing, then empathy level is higher as rated by the patient. Yeah, and there are some suggestion to make empathy training program effective. Yeah, for example, it seems that health professionals and university students are easier to train compared to the general population. And when we have some rewards for the trainees, that would help as well. And when we use empathy measure that focus on the items listed there, it would lead to a better or more effective training program. And the last part is there are studies that shows empathy and also conflict, and I think this is focusing more on the interpersonal conflict. There are promising studies that show empathy is associated with pro-social behavior and also favorable attitude and higher readiness for reconciliation among across a range of intergroup setting. And people with higher, more competitive conflict resolution mode would have lower attitude towards empathy. So we know they are related. Yeah. However, it is also found that ethnocentric attitude may negate the effect of empathy. So you may have high level of empathy, but if you are heavily ethnocentric, then you may not actually behave empathically to other people. Yeah, so we can explore the role of empathy towards people involved in wars and also conflict, be it the researchers, the general public, the news media, as well as the journalists. Yeah, and given the widespread use of social media, we also need to look at empathy among the netizens, among the regulators of social media, and also the social media companies as well. Just like what was happening in for Facebook when they are involved in campaigns, the USA presidential campaign. Yeah? And this is my last slide, my concluding remark, reflection on the verses from the Quran. In the Surah this is Surah Al-Fajr, yeah, Allah provides us with stimuli. For example, here a prototype of a human being. Yeah, Allah didn't say who this particular person is, but it's just a person. Yeah, and when we read about this, we are supposed to have the emotional and also cognitive responses. Yeah, and the example given are easy to understand. The parable or the example given are ready for us to relate to, so that we can have congruent responses, and it helps. Or we are also encouraged to maintain self versus others distinction. We don't identify fully with the person described in the verses, but we need to distance ourselves from this person. And maybe this is an example of a situation-specific empathy regarding people who think that they have been abandoned by God when they didn't get what they want. Yeah, and in this particular example, maybe we can think about contrapathy. This is a term that I'm using, where we are empathic to the person, but we want to have a different set of the opposite emotional reaction. We don't want to be like the persons described in this verse. Yeah, and we need to have this reflection or the muhasabah, so that we can be empathic towards others, and hopefully by continually reading the Quran and the tafsir, we can have some sort of automaticity in our emotional reactions. So that would be all from me. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Dr. Harris, for your presentation that highlights empathy in the context of war and conflict, giving a new perspectives towards the issues of war and conflict that we rarely hear. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to the last speaker of this second plenary session. The last presenter, the last speaker is our colleagues, Mr. Bonostio, Dr. Bonostio, MSc. Let me briefly read his curriculum vitae. Mr. Bono obtained his bachelor degree from University of 11 Maret, Solo, Indonesia, majoring in mass communication. And then he continued his master's degree in Pajajaran University, Bandung, majoring in communication management. And his PhD is obtained in UIN Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta, majoring in Islamic education. Currently, he is an active lecturer in the Department of Communication Science here at the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities. And besides that, he also serves as the Director of Communication Studies and Training Center. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bona will give us a different point of view again regarding war and conflict, as he studied Islamic education, Islamic history for his PhD. He will be talking about the conflict between mazhab. What is mazhab and why there could be a conflict between one mazhab and another mazhab. We will hear it from Mr. Bono, Setia MSI. Okay, please, Mr. Bono, the 20 minutes time is yours.
Verdi Sambo bawa senapan. Pelurunya terbuat dari berlian. Salam hormat saya ucapkan kepada partisipan semua. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for opportunity given to me. Today I feel very happy because today I can sit here beside my bestie. my colleagues, now I want to share my recent research about Khilafiyah conflict between Sunni and Wahhabi Mazhab. I was doing this research last year in East Lombok and find many interesting findings, and today I want to share this. And without any further ado, I must assume that ladies and gentlemen here are aware and familiar with the term of conflict. We know that conflict is phenomenon which cannot be separated from human life and development. But has everyone know what the basic cause of the conflict? Conflict has various characteristics as human diversity, including gender differences, social and economic state, social system, nation, ethnicities, religion, belief, mazhab, political flow, as well as culture and life goal. So, what the answer from my previous question? Hello? What the answer from my previous question? Yes, just one word, differences. This diversity, if not managed properly, and there is no tolerance in it, it may cause conflict. This actually the main issue. As you can see the slideshow, there are two examples. So the conflict caused by the differences has ever occurred in Indonesia. Sampit konflik and Ambon konflik. Bisa dilihat di slide, ada dua gambar foto tentang konflik yang ada di Sampit and Ambon, di mana dua karakteristik itu berbeda. Satunya konflik karena perbedaan suku yang di Sampit, sementara yang di Ambon karena perbedaan agama. This is actually in a dilemma, where on the one hand, this condition is one of Indonesia advantage, but in another hand, this condition is very vulnerable to trigger conflict. Ya, jadi ini dilema, keberagaman ini, perbedaan yang ada di Indonesia ini menjadi sebuah dilema karena satu sisi ini menjadi satu kekuatan, tetapi sisi lain itu menjadi pemicu konflik. Ya, ini saya terjemahkan, kan ini banyak yang nggak bisa bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Inggris. Meanwhile, difference is necessity, as has been said in Quran Surat Hujurat verse 13. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dzakarin wa unsa wa ja'alnakum suhuban wa khoba illa lita'arafu. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Innallaha alimun khabir. Sadaqallahul azim. One of the conflict that occur due to the differences is mazhab in Islamic law or fiqh. It is known that there are different mazhab. One of the example, this conflict has occurred in Bebidas village, is Lombok Regency, between Sunni mazhab and the Wahhabi mazhab. So everyone must now know the basic cause of conflict is differences, and there is a term which called khilafiyah to describe the differences in Islamic affair. What is khilafiyah? The term khilafiyah means differences due to dispute among Muslims regarding the law or the way of worship. What is khilafiyah conflict in mazhab? Khilafiyah conflict in mazhab means dispute between Muslim in different school of thought. In Bebidas village case, the conflict happened between Sunni and Wahhabi mazhab. Now, I will explain the difference between these two mazhab. This table, next. This table shows the differences between Sunni and Wahhabi mazhab. Ya, saya persingkat saja ya, karena ini kalau saya bacakan satu-satu. Jadi intinya, Wahhabi dan Sunni itu intinya kalau Wahhabi itu suka mengkafirkan orang Islam. Nah, kalau Sunni itu mengislamkan orang kafir, gitu aja. Jadi kalau orang kok sukanya kafir itu kafir ya, itu berarti dah itu cocok Pak Widi. Cocok. Nah, sumber konflik itu kalau sudah mengkafirkan itu konflik. Okay, next. And now, what is cause Sunni and Wahhabi mazhab get in the conflict? Ya, apa yang menjadi sebab-sebab? We found that there are three causes the khilafiyah conflict in mazhab. First, the differences in mazhab. Jadi salah satu penyebab itu adalah perbedaan mazhab sendiri. Beda mazhab itu bisa menimbulkan konflik. Second, the differences in understanding and experience of religion. perbedaan dalam cara memahami agama dan pengalaman yang berbeda-beda antar penganut agama, penganut mazhab. Jadi gini, misalnya ini soal perbedaan memahami kalau subuh pakai kunut, yang kalau yang satunya tidak pakai kunut. Nah itu. Kemudian perbedaan mazhab lagi, persoalan ibadah-ibadah yang lain, perbedaan penafsiran dan cara ibadah. Jadi perbedaannya penafsiran dan cara beribadah. Cara beribadah itu misalnya bagaimana takbiratul ikramnya gitu ya. Kemudian bagaimana cara duduknya, kemudian bagaimana cara-cara yang lain lah, ibadah-ibadah mahdoh yang lain. Third, blaming and disbelief each other, menyalahkan yang tidak sama dan tidak sesuai yang tidak mudah menyalahkan gitu. Jadi toleransinya itu istilahnya tidak ada toleransinya. Kalau istilahnya Pak Dekan itu, saya pinjam istilahnya Pak Dekan, margin of tolerannya itu kecil. Ya. Jadi semakin luas margin toleran kita pada orang lain, maka tidak akan ada konflik. Kenapa di FISHUM itu tenang, tidak ada konflik? Karena margin tolerannya luas sekali. Next is how we can manage the conflict. Conflict needs to be managed. It would better to prevent it. Yeah, there are four conflict management that I can suggest. First, conciliation. Konsiliasi itu intinya semua mendapatkan 50-50. Nah, jadi bagian yang sama. Second, reconciliation. Rekonsiliasi itu jadi mendampingkan kembali, tetapi belum tentu dapat sama, bagian sama gitu ya. Jadi yang penting bisa menerima. Third, mediation, dengan cara dimediasi. And fourth, arbitration. Arbitration itu melalui perwasitan atau kalau dalam bahasa ini melalui pengadilan secara hukum. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your attention. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah, waridha wal inayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Bono, for your presentations that sheds light on the differences on mazhab and how it has ever caused conflicts in Islambook, right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we have finished with all the four speakers, we are going to move on to the question and answer sessions, discussion sessions. So I will let you to address some questions to the speakers. We have around 15 minutes for question and answers. So feel free to raise your hand and give your questions. Okay, Mr. Alip. Okay, maybe committee members can help me to check if there are any questions on the Zoom chat. Any other questions from the participants in the room? No? Okay, Pak Alip, sudah ada mikrofonnya? Okay, please. You can.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I have one question to Mr. Yenal Goksun from Turkey. Sorry if it's incorrect in pronunciation. I have one question. What do you think or your analysis about Russian and Ukraine crisis, about media framing in Turkey? Is that tend to support Russian or tend to support Ukraine? Thank you.
Okay, I think it's quite clear. The question is from Mr. Alip. He's asking about the media framing in Turkish media, the framing in Turkish media. Does it tend to support or to reject maybe the communication strategy or towards the war itself? Okay, maybe
Thank you
Dr.
very much.
Yonal Goksun, you can directly answer.
Yeah, I can clearly hear you. Thank you very much for the question and for your interest. In many conflicts, actually, Turkish public opinion can be divided into different parts. But in this crisis, the Ukraine-Russian crisis, interestingly, the Turkish public opinion is united from that perspective that Turkey should stay far from polarizing the conflict, which means that accepting the communication strategy of the government, which is that it's Turkey's benefit to keep the dialogue with the two sides, both sides, and we shouldn't leave ourselves in a position to support on the one side, because if you support one side in a conflict, it means that if that side loses the conflict or the war, then you will be losing the conflict. And Turkey, which is surrounded by many different conflicts, has an experience about this. For example, the Syria conflict. Turkey is engaged with the conflict much more than the Russian-Ukraine conflict because it was a really different context. I mean, there was a uprising in the country in Syria, and Turkey had a position to support the popular movement. So this was why Turkey has declared its side in this conflict. But Russia-Ukraine conflict is totally different, and Turkey's public opinion is totally supporting this communication strategy. Of course, it's related how the government is explaining the strategy to the Turkish public opinion. I mean, in television programs, in political debates, in different sections, and people from different ideologies, experts and politicians from different ideologies, they always argue that Turkey should be following a balanced perspective in this conflict. This is the benefit of Turkey. And in that point today, after like 6 months after the crisis, beginning of the war, we can clearly see that yes, this perspective is working, and the public opinion keeps their support for this perspective, which means that actually this is a part of a foreign policy decision of Turkey. But in this perspective, this crisis becomes a part of the internal politics in Turkey, which means that, for example, the opposition parties, which they are hardly criticizing the government in Turkey, but in this context, in this crisis, regarding this crisis, they also agree with this objective perspective of the government, which means that that communication strategy is really working. The only thing is that sometimes there are some critics from some part of the Western media. They claim that Turkey is getting far from the Western Democratic Union, but actually Turkey has many arguments to destroy this discourse, like we are sending weapons and those weapons are helping Ukrainian people to defend their land. So this is a great argument to protect Turkey's communication strategy in the Western public opinion. I hope I answered your question. Again, thank you very much for your question.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. I think it's the answer is quite clear. So if I can resume the answer from Dr. Yonal, Turkey's media framing tends to be neutral. It's not supporting one side, whether it's Russia or Ukraine, because if you are supporting one side, then maybe it can cause another conflict in the region or even in Turkey itself. But there is always an opposition from the opposition party in Turkey, so there is always debates regarding the strategy of the government of Turkey towards the Russia and Ukrainian war. Okay, is there any other questions from the participants in the room? No? Okay, if there is no more question, there is one question through conflict to the Zoom chatting, but it's been already answered by Dr. Haris, so I will just read the question and also the answers. Assalamualaikum, how to build empathy in the work environment? While sometimes a lot of work pressure causes conflict in the work environment, so that it eliminates empathy for each other. And this question is addressed to Dr. Haris. The question is from Anissa Larasati. And the answer is, a useful skill to develop empathy is perspective taking. First, think about your prejudices and stereotypes that might produce biases in your thoughts about others. And then second, ask for clarifications when you are not really sure how people react in a particular situation. And third, listen actively. Reduce the urge to talk when attending to a colleague when you want to be empathetic. Clear communications in the organization would also help employees to be more empathic instead of guessing why someone do something. Encourage employees to be more transparent with each other. Okay, once again, is there any more questions? We still have 5 minutes remaining. Okay, if there is no questions, so this is the end of the second plenary of the fourth annual international conferences on social sciences and humanities. I'd like to once again say our gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has made this event smoothly successful today. And also, of course, I would like to say thank you very much to all the keynote speakers who have shared their ideas, their thoughts, as well as their research result, so that it gives us many insights, many new knowledges on the issue of war and conflict in 3 perspectives: communication, psychology, and sociology. Tomorrow we will have presentations from authors who have submitted their full papers, and the presentations will be divided into 3 clusters: sociology, communication science, and psychology. Later, the committee will send the detailed schedule of the presentation, so which authors belongs to which room, so you can read. They will send you. We will meet you tomorrow. Thank you very much for attending the day 1 of the conference. We will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam.